everybody, we're back again this week. Luba, it's always a pleasure to see you. Welcome back.
Thank you.
We're episode 2 of Take My Hand, and today we're going to be talking about how to effectively begin a relationship. What are the steps to start a new relationship? Before I start though, Luba, tell me what type of tea are you drinking today?
All right, so today I'm not drinking anything special because I see you have something nice though. Yeah, I just flew in from Columbus, Ohio, back to the meditation retreat, and the only tea I could find was just regular Lipton. So, oh, what about you, Patrick?
I'm drinking a lychee red tea, which is very
Mm,
unusual for me. I'm not big on fruity teas, but I'm quite enjoying it actually. What does it mean? Tell us.
lychee. Well, I don't know exactly about specifically lychee, but it's sweet, right?
Yeah, and it's a red tea.
Yeah, Asian tea. Yeah, well, it feels refreshing and feminine and nice balance.
So you're saying
Especially,
I'm in a feminine stage right now.
I see. Perfect. All right.
Okay, so Luba, really what I want to begin by discussing really is it's I've been having this discussion with a lot of my girlfriends lately, and I've noticed a lot of comments on some of my other articles of a lot of men who seem to be coming up on two they're on two opposite ends of the spectrum. So the first is, do women actually want to be approached? Because I've heard a lot of my girlfriends complaining about how, men no longer show up, and they go, what's so bad if we were to just go and talk to guys? Why don't we just do that? And on the other hand, I've seen a lot of men saying both, no, it's wrong, you shouldn't be doing that, and I've seen men go, yeah, like we shouldn't have to do all the work. Why don't women approach men every so often? So I want to know, what do you think? What's your take on this?
Yeah. My take is that there are very different kinds of men, uh, and there are some kind of men who really likes to be the initiator and feels threatened when approached. Yeah, and then there is another kind of man who, in fact, his best offense is defense, which means is that he loves to wait to be approached. And like this kind of man actually, in fact, has a very good strategy, because if he's approached by a woman, at least he knows that there's something there that that's already building up. So those kind of men, sometimes those are men who are popular men among women, and they just used to being approached. And I am familiar with men like that. And in terms of a woman, whether women want to be approached or not be approached, I can assure you, if a woman is attracted to someone, she wants to be approached. So basically, I would say that before any kind of approaching, I think that just becoming more intuitive and becoming more sensitive to the signals, to the body signals and the body language, before any kind of contact is started, I think that is the key, right?
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring that up. I find that, I mean, to me personally, maybe it's just based on where I come from or the type of work that I do, but to me it just seems like, I mean, the women that have told me that they want to do the work themselves, I've noticed that it all depends really where you stand energetically. And so, seeing as how most women tend to be in a very feminine, um, they tend to be very feminine energetically. There are some who are not, and that's fine too. But most women are energetically mostly in their feminine, depending on what stage they are in life. I find that the more feminine they are, the less they want to do the approach. The less they want to take the control. They want to step up and so on, right? And so they'll have their own very flowing way of interacting, and they'll be sending out the signal. Don't get me wrong; it will always be
Exactly.
that signal, right? It will be,
Yeah.
just flashing the eyes a little bit longer
Yeah.
than normal, or the classic lingering gaze, or just brushing up very slowly against someone. And I think that a man who's not very sensitive will it'll just like just go right over his head. But the more sensitive you are and the more grounded you are, the more present you are, you'll be able to notice the signs, left and right, because there's women everywhere who are, screaming to be seduced, literally, to be
Yes.
taken off their feet, right? There's a very real need for men to show up. So I think personally, I would find it a little bit strange if a woman were to come up and approach me in the way that men consider it approaching, right? The feminine way, I would notice it and it'd be beautiful. It's part of the dance. But if a woman were to come up and just go like, "You're absolutely, handsome. I wanted to say hi," or something like, I don't know, something would just feel a bit strange to me. It would feel like this poor woman had to kind of drag herself out of her feminine role and like adopt a masculine role she doesn't necessarily want to take on, just because men no longer show up. So
Yeah.
is that the issue? You tell me. Is it that men are no longer showing up, so women are forced to take on this role, or is there really a real desire to show up that way, on the part of women?
I think there are a couple of explanations. One is, yes, that women are becoming more proactive, and so that allows men who are afraid of rejection and who are a little bit spoiled also maybe by women's attention, that allows them to step into the passive role. So it's kind of both, and then the women definitely are becoming more independent, and um, like, again, I want to mention that pure feminine woman like we used to have in the 50s, like feminine on the feminine spectrum, is very rare nowadays. There's much more balance, and every woman also has this masculine energy, because look at what's happening to women, right? They're occupying very executive positions, and they are getting used to leadership. So women are at power right now. So it's very hard for a woman who's used to be running an office, for example, right? And like ruling 100 people, to sit and passively wait for something to happen in her life if it's not happening.
But that's a very good point, actually. But call me crazy, but I find in my experience, and this has been from women who are, 20 some odd, who have been absolutely beautiful since they were like 12 years old. They know the kind of power they have over men, and it ranges all the way to the almost 40-year-old woman who's a career oriented and or divorced and has kids, or just has been single up until she's 40. I've found that no matter how ingrained they are in the masculine role that they've taken on, I have yet to find a woman who doesn't want to be swept off her feet, who doesn't want to be seduced. And I don't mean seduced in this new, text outside her, you're outside the house in the car, you'll send her a text like, "I'm here." I mean really seduced, show up, open the door for her, really take her out, look deep into her eyes, be fully present with her. I have yet to find a woman who isn't aching for that kind of seduction, that kind of beauty and romance to be brought back into her life. So the issue now is, I mean, this masculine role that they're taking on at work, sure, they're taking it on, but I don't believe they're happy with it. I don't believe that it's something that they genuinely want to transfer into their relationships.
For sure, for sure. Of course, it feels wonderful for a woman to be in her feminine and to trust that the inner man of a man that she is with is stronger than her own inner man. That's a real joy, right? And when she can allow herself to be in the feminine flow, which is not mental, which is not about survival, which is more about artistic expression, right? Joy of life, sensuality, slowing down, being able to be in the present moment without worrying, right, about the future, building for the future. So yes, of course, every woman loves when something like this happens, but not every woman invites it. A lot of women are struggling to get back to their feminine right now
Yeah, that's
because of the patriarchal society, for sure.
sure. Okay, I want to take the next step here. Let's talk about authenticity, because I find that it's something that's lacking in dating nowadays, and I think that you can't actually begin a relationship with someone if you are not, especially for men, right? Especially to my audience, to the type of men that I work with and that I coach, I find that really bridging the gap between who they are and where they want to be authentically is the biggest challenge that men in my generation will encounter, because we've lost that sense of, I mean, to put it in a more like philosophical term, we've suppressed the lion that's roaring inside of us. we've suppressed it completely, completely. And we're top heavy, right? We're fun to, you know, men nowadays, they're fun to be around. They're nice and charming. They're funny. They're kind of witty, but they lack that depth of being. They lack that drive, that sense of purpose. They lack that edge, and the women in their lives can no longer feel that edge coming from them. And so there's no more authenticity. They don't communicate as a man communicates to a woman. They talk as kind of like with this half-empty glass saying, you know, please fill it up for me, right? Like, I don't know where I'm going, please show me, instead of, I know where I'm going, why don't you come with me?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. That's a very good point. I think authenticity has different aspects, right? So one of the aspects is knowing where you're going, and a deeper aspect is knowing who you are, right? Why you're going there at all, and what is really important for you, and what are you choosing in your life, including your partner. What kind of partner is important? I was just talking to somebody who is about 40-year-old guy, and he said, oh, I really know what I'm looking for in my partner. And I said, really, what is it? And he sends me a photograph of some woman. And I said, what do you mean? He says, well, yeah, I need her to, you know, have these curls and these big boobs and, you know, this and that. Yeah. And I said, listen, are you 17 years old? Are you crazy? Is that your priority? Like, you're not thinking about having a partner with a common vision, you know, somebody who is also on the path of personal growth and development, somebody who's done some work emotionally, who's conscious over her feelings. Like, you don't care about any of who has a common language with you, common interests, common goals within family. Like, you didn't mention any of that. He's like, well, that's who I'm attracted to. I'm like, all right, well, keep going with your kindergarten until, you know, you hit in your head enough and see who are you, you know, in this life.
That's a big aspect of authenticity as well. I find that it's really one of the missing pieces. It's finding out whether you're living, you're actually truly living and embodying your own values, or are you living somebody else's values? In other words, your friends or the society that you're immersed in. Not that there's anything wrong, but the issue is, like the example you provided is, I mean, is the epitome of achievement having a, you know, a hot girlfriend? Is that really what your life purpose is? Is that the gift that you're leaving behind? So I find that it's a big part of authenticity, right? It's really coming to terms with sitting down and coming to know yourself, like you said, because if not, how can you live authentically if you don't know who you really are?
Exactly, but let me ask you this. This is my question to you then. If he says, well, but I'm attracted to her, it doesn't necessarily mean that he's attracted to her because of somebody's values. Maybe he's just physically attracted to a specific type, and he makes that a priority. What does it tell us about him that his first kind of self-perception is of himself as an animal? Or what? You know, just purely on this physical, animalistic level.
I mean, yeah, that's a very good question. Well, I don't want to sit here and pass judgment, to be honest, but it just seems to me like it says a lot about who you are as a person if your priorities are limited to the region between your legs, as opposed to what it is you're trying to leave behind, what it is. I mean, really, the masculine essence is the sense of purpose. It's this drive. What are you leaving behind to the world? And so the issue is, like we talked about a bit earlier, is that most men nowadays, they're showing up with the glass half empty, and they're asking someone else to fill it up. Or in other terms, in Jungian philosophy, Jungian psychology terms, they want mommy. They want mommy to say good boy. And that's the problem, is that there's that distinction, it stopped existing. I don't know when, but you know, boys do not grow up into becoming men. The boy in them never actually dies, and I don't mean the fun, like this endearing, childlike nature. What I'm talking about is the need to gather even bigger toys, the need to become the king of the castle. It never actually dies. It's people are still holding on to that, and so. In my experience personally, there's nothing wrong with finding a specific type of woman attractive. There's nothing wrong with that. But needing it as validation, as a as a confirmation that you've achieved something in your life. You have a plastic woman on your arm. uh, I don't know. To me, that's not a way. That's not the way to live. It's not the way to show that you've accomplished something. I mean, go and change somebody's life. Go and leave behind something extraordinary. Then we can talk, right? You'll sit among the ranks of the great men of the world, right? The Alexander the Greats, the Julius Caesars, and so on. But you're not going to be remembered for having, you know, a plastic woman on your arm because you impressed her by, I don't know, faking who you are or flashing your wallet or whatever. And that's not a reflection of the type of woman. It's a reflection of who you are as a man.
Yeah, exactly. Then also when you're talking about authenticity, right? Leaving a legacy is a great aspect of authenticity and knowing who you are. But I also feel like from a spiritual point of view that sometimes knowing who we are also consists of knowing that we're finally no one. Meaning, instead of having a strong association, self-identification with a specific role or specific nation or specific teaching, just also understanding that what you really are is just consciousness with infinite possibilities,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, a big aspect, actually, kind of like the yin and the yang, authenticity is deeply attached to vulnerability, which in itself should be the topic of another one of our discussions because we can talk so much about it. But really, the vulnerability is coming to that conclusion, that deep, that profound truth that I am not the story that I keep telling myself. I am not good with women. I'm not attractive. I am not a coach, and at the same time, I'm not a loser, and I am not good enough, and so on and so
Mm-hmm.
forth. And it's knowing who you're not, in which you're able to come to know who you are, which is
Mm-hmm.
indescribable and beyond thought itself.
Exactly. So that works for both men and women, regardless achievement or
Without a doubt,
legacy or
without a doubt.
anything. So
But
I'd also feel it's critical.
yeah, to
Yeah.
remain on topic though, let's say, I mean, I'll get to it from the masculine, but from a feminine perspective, what would be an authentic way to begin a relationship? What would that mean to you if I were to tell you that, let's say that you just met someone, be it at, let's say, a bar or an event or the street even, or wherever it is through friends or so on, what would be the authentic interaction between a man and a woman based on your perspective? From the feminine perspective, how would you see
Mhm.
it?
Wonderful, wonderful question. So you might be familiar with the fact that women extrapolate really fast, meaning, and project really fast. Meaning, for example, she just met you, and within the next 5 minutes, she can, in her head, come up with the whole picture of how you and her are going to live together, have 2 horses, 3 children, and the kind of clothing she's going to be buying for you in a store because she doesn't like the way you're dressed right now.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
I didn't know that actually, but
Oh yeah, 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 big time, big time. This is what happens. So because women, it is instinctual. Women estimate a potential mate always based on the future, and desire of a woman has a built-in projection, whether this man can be or not a good provider, or can or not be give his seed. And there are some self-destructive women who get turned on when no, he cannot be a good provider. And then there are other women who really, let's say, love themselves and are interested in being cherished and cared for. And they get turned on by somebody who actually can be a good provider and who can, be a caretaker and who can be there and who can be their support. So anyway, for women, those two things, they go together immediately. So a woman can look at a man, and even before she knows it in her mind, her whole body is just going to recognize it and build that projection in no time at all. So I feel that being authentic for a woman is being in the present. So what women do a lot, and we all do it, but for women even more so than men, they choose a canvas onto which they can draw their own projection of what it is they want to fall in love with, what they hold their highest value of rapture. And then they start building it up, totally ignoring the reality, ignoring what's really coming at them. Instead of listening to the guy, they just listen to their own thoughts and fantasies about how this relationship should and can go. And so I would say that the first thing is to, yes, to stay in the present with what is and to give it some time. And at the same time, also, the most important thing is to stay in the heart, be vulnerable, be in the heart. Why is it important? Because, hey, if you have to protect yourself from the guy, let the guy go. You know, there is no sense to start a relationship with a person who can potentially, you know, like take advantage of your vulnerability. So I would say, yeah, being honest about what you want, and at the same time, not rushing it, not creating a bubble that later on is going to burst really fast. You know, so that's what I would say is authentic for a
Yeah.
woman.
That's very, very well put.
Thank
And I like your wording because actually in my blog I talk about this a lot, a lot, a lot, and I'll always talk about how men need to refrain from projecting uh, their own identity onto the women that they interact with. This is a small parenthesis, but yeah, I'll always talk about how you need to be, especially as men, right? The what is masculine attractiveness? What is the root that makes a man attractive? What is it that grounds us in our polarity? Is that the masculine is, at its essence, the present watcher, which is again why, if you look at why men love to immerse themselves in sports, right? They don't talk about the team. Who lost? We lost, right? And they feel as if they're part of the sport, but they're watching it, right? They're not there. They're not interacting with the actual sport itself. But the sport itself is a personification of the feminine. It's the flowing, chaotic nature, and they're sitting and they're observing it. And that's like the perfect, in a nutshell, relationship between the masculine and the feminine. And so,
Wow.
very true, very true. I mean, masculine presence is being that canvas. It's the blank canvas on which the woman can project her deepest desires, her fantasies, and her insecurities, but in the full and secure knowledge that man will not falter, will not retreat, and will not fight. In other words, will not try to take advantage. And so, to me, really, an authentic approach is, like you said, right? Women need to be in their heart, and the problem, both with men and women nowadays, is that everyone's stuck up here. Everybody's trapped. They're trapped in this,
Yeah.
right? All the
Yeah.
reasons and this whole story that they're telling themselves, and this, all the reasons why they're not good enough, and all of their past hurts and disappointments. But the reality is that we need to be here, and men, to a certain degree, need to be further down there. Not to be crass, but what I mean is that our sexual polarity, our attractiveness towards a woman, will always shoot from our just above our crotch, and it will move upwards into our body. And so, before our mind has the time to take advantage, to really step in, it's to really place yourself down there, to be with that feeling, to be aware of that energy and that desire, which is beautiful, because it's the same desire of that little boy chasing after the butterfly, reaching for it. It's that curiosity, that sense of wonder and passion, and we all have it. We just learn to quell that voice inside. So, really, to me, what I would say as an authentic approach is to remain as present as physically possible, to practice yourself, to train to be the masculine presence, to be fully aware. And when you are present, when you live in that here and now, there is no fear, there's no anxiety, and there's no past disappointments and so on. You're fully there with the woman who's in front of you. And what happens is, naturally, it gives rise to a curiosity. And I think that, as Casanova said, love is 3/4 curiosity. And if you're not curious about the person sitting in front of you, what are you doing with your life? I mean, it's the most incredible thing for me to be in front of just this incredible, beautiful woman. No matter who she is, I will make her feel special, and I will make her feel important to me, and I will make her feel like she's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, because I don't have much to give. All I can really give is that presence, and I will give it fully, as much as I can, and that's my gift. And men need to really just bring themselves into alignment with that, to become aware of the fact that that is what they should be giving. It's not about flashing the watch, and not about flexing the biceps, and it's not about that. Like, if the quality of your interactions are concentrated in a very, very low conscious area, right? Something completely irrelevant, like material wealth and physicality and so on, then you're going to attract a very low quality type of mate. But if you are on that higher vibration, if you are um, living at a more conscious state, then you will attract a very conscious, a very quality relationship and a very quality partner.
Exactly. Yeah, I love what you're saying. Presence really is a deep gift. And especially, how much women love to talk. So, in general, a man who is present can really listen. And that is very attractive. And that listening, and sometimes in our classes, I teach people the act of full listening, or listening with the full body listening. And when that is presence, that is real presence, that listening, and when that happens, this pure presence, it's almost like co-creating the reality together. The woman feels seen, she feels heard, she feels manifested, realized, and yeah, this is definitely very beautiful. And sometimes when the man starts to compete with the woman, within his own feminine nature, that becomes very difficult, although sometimes it's attractive for some women. And so, for example, when the man all of a sudden starts to wonder what he looks like right now, and whether he's handsome enough, or whether he's this enough or that enough, or something like that, that usually it almost like he pulls the feminine blanket onto himself, you know, and leaves the woman in the space where there's nothing else left for her but to take the masculine present
Yeah.
role of presence. And we see that role reversal a lot lately. And I can assure you, it is not something that is comfortable for
No,
most
it's
women.
dysfunctional. Everything you said, the list you just made, are all symptoms of somebody needing mommy to tell you you're a good boy. And that is,
Yeah.
again, it's because the little boy did not die. The man was not born. Because a man no longer
Yeah.
needs mommy to say that, you're a good boy. A man is immersed in his sense of being, and that'll probably be another episode that we're going to cover. But it's if you are living in alignment with your purpose as a man, then you are essentially happy. You cannot be present with your woman if you are not fully immersed in your purpose, if you're not on your path, so to speak. I've never seen a man who's capable, who's completely lost and flowing, who's not really centered, who has no real mission in his life, be able to fully show up for a woman, to be there as the unshakable, unwavering canvas of presence. And so, without a doubt, it's absolutely, like you said, completely uncomfortable for a woman. And it's not to say that some men are just naturally in there more feminine. And I actually know I have some very close friends who are, they tend to be very artistic. Their emotions are very flowing. They have no real plan. They're in that chaotic period of their lives, and that's fine, because the funny thing is, just by observing, you'll notice that they'll tend to attract very women who are immersed in their masculine, who
Yes.
are on their own path, who are maybe focused on their career, who are doing their own thing, who don't really need to be reassured all the time. And these are not good or bad things. These are not negative things. It's isness itself. It's fine. If that's where your nature lies, you will attract your complement. But if you are unable to confront your own masculine, and you've kind of, as you said, I actually love the analogy, pull over the blanket of femininity, and your woman is in her feminine, is immersed in her own feminine period of her life, and she's forced to take on the masculine, well, that's the root of dysfunction. These are the couples that fight all the time and that will not last. These are the ones who just, there's no connection there. It's gone. It's over.
Yeah, but also it's a lesson to learn, like for a woman as well. Women get attracted to feminine men because the woman's own feminine is not strong enough. So the a woman can look at this feminine man and say, "Oh my God, this is what I want for myself. I need to learn from that." She's
Yeah.
not going to say that consciously, but her whole psyche is going to say that. And that's
Yeah.
where the attraction is. And that is the lesson. And sometimes it's a very costly lesson, because some of those women really lose touch with the feminine nature
Yeah.
for years, so it's something to be aware of for sure.
So let's get a bit further here. Let's talk about creating a connection.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a profound connection. I'm not talking about, oh, you like spaghetti, I like spaghetti. How do you for you personally as a woman, how would you see it? What would be a trigger that would make you hook with a man for life? I mean, really just get lost and almost be one person. What are the elements that will do that for you? Let's talk about that.
All right. Well, I'm not a very usual woman, so what I shall share, I can share. What I find attractive in a man is that he knows his purpose. I am inspired by a man's purpose, right? Because if I'm serving someone in the relationship, through them, I want to be serving a higher purpose that makes me also fulfilled. I'm also attracted to a man who is calm, who is together, who is sitting there, walking in the earth in a way that he feels connected to nature. He feels connected to just to the physical reality. For me, it's very important that he can build a tent, like set up a tent, make fire, go into a forest, and like follow some traces or
Manly man.
yeah, for me it is very important because I always think like there's something in me that always thinks, okay, so what happens if we come into some kind of apocalypse? Like I want my man to be able to protect me. I don't want some guy who's just gonna freak out if his cell phone goes out.
Yeah. That's a very deep, that's a profound feminine need, is to be able to feel your man as a potential killer, really, as the guy who will not only kill the spider but protect you from whoever's breaking into your house or so on. Yeah.
Yeah, in some way that like is going to be there 100%. So since I did a lot of work on myself as a woman, so I naturally am attracted to good people. Thank God. That's not how it's always been, but now that is what happens. And so I am attracted to men who have very high compassion towards other people. And it's within the realm of this men in their presence where I feel at ease. I feel like I can be fully myself, that I can be authentic without any kind of reservations, and where I strive. I'm attracted to that. So that's just talking about more emotional and maybe spiritual qualities. In terms of physical attraction, for me, it is, since also I'm a practitioner, so my body is not in some way, right? It's not a body of someone who's never worked with themselves. My body is a marriage between flesh and consciousness, which means that like imagine you can feel your right hand, right? Like you feel your right hand, it's easy. But if you think like you want to feel your left ear, it's not as easy. Okay, there is not a lot of consciousness there. Now, since I'm a tantrika, there's a lot of consciousness in my whole body. So I'm attracted to the same kind of a man. So if I feel that the person does not reside fully in their body, that they are unconscious about the movements that they make, or they're unconscious about the sounds that they make, or they're unconscious why they're saying things, what are the consequences of them saying those things. They're unconscious about how they hug, or they're unconscious about how they make love. That is not attractive for me. So I am very attracted to conscious men, and of course, most of them have some kind of practice, whether it is meditation or yoga or martial art or uh, tantric lovemaking or whatever it is. But yeah, again, that is me.
So how would you conceive of it? I mean, based on what you just told me, you are fully immersed in your feminine. Even your description of how you want to be able to see God through a man. That's it's only through a very strong masculine presence, very strong masculine consciousness that you'd be even asking for that you'd be able to find that. So you are very immersed in your feminine, and so to most of the women who are also immersed in the feminine, what would you see as prerequisites to create a profound connection? How would you advise a woman to open up to that connection, be it at a party or a social event, or a complete stranger on the street. If you find that connection, how do you recognize it, and how would you see it as playing itself out?
The connection with the with your own feminine for a woman.
With the masculine, with a man or a partner.
Hmm. Can you give me an example?
Okay,
Let's say
well,
a
let's talk
party.
about, yeah, let's say that you're at a social event or a party or something, and you're leaning against the bar, and all of a sudden a man shows up, and we'll talk
Hmm.
about it. We'll talk about the way a man should show up afterwards. But say that a man shows up, and before you know it, you're immersed in conversation. So how would you open yourself up to an actual connection rather than just being another guy at the bar?
I'm always open for actual connection. That's my default state. So I would recommend for everyone actually to perceive all communication, whether it's dating or whether it is just random conversations, as a high meeting of two souls who are there to be of service for each other. Whether this communication is going to end up as friendship or love or being together forever or nothing, whatever it is, we're living our life in the present, and every moment is priceless. So if you are talking to any being, there's a soul in that being, and that soul wants love just like you, and that soul doesn't want to be unhappy just like you. And all we can do for each other is to be these fellow travelers on the path. So recognizing that in whatever connection there is, even if it's a fun flirty connection, whatever it is, to find some kind of life and juice and dance, whoever you're talking to, I think that is a great personal practice, and that's how you would open up. And if your question is how to do it in a more feminine way, right? Was that your question?
How would the feminine open to connection? I'm aiming specifically for the women who say that who say as a complaint, let's say, a very valid complaint, that they're not able to find genuine connection and not able to find something real.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Well, to find something real, you have to be real yourself. That's number one. Because it's your open heart that knocks into another heart and makes it open. If you start directly speaking to the soul of the person, that soul is going to start answering. And for some, it's going to take, 2 minutes, for others, 3 months, and for others, lifetimes, maybe, you know. But then, of course, then there's discernment. But the original stand, being grounded within wild and wise feminine magic, yourself, for a woman, is to be in that space, to be that initiatrix, to be that magical woman who is always providing that authentic connection herself. So we start with at home, that's what I would recommend.
Yeah, very well said. For the masculine, I find that to me the really the elements of connection that are necessary is to first of all, absolutely and resoundingly, without a doubt, to open yourself up first. That means that any man who hasn't dealt with his storm, who hasn't faced his storm, who hasn't
Mm.
been in it, you're not ready.
I
Really.
love what you're saying, the storm. I love that. Yes. And let me ask you, sorry for interrupting, but I'm just very curious. So when you say dealt with this storm, right? How would you say that the man has dealt with it? Like, what is the criteria?
Well, to stand in it, nothing else. Stand in it. You can't be presence itself if you're running away from whatever emotional state lives within you, be it like anxiety, be it anger, be it past pains that you're gripping onto, be it depression or whatever it may be. At some point, right, the storm that's been chasing you for your entire life, stop,
Yeah.
stop, turn around, stand in it. Just stay in it. Don't call it good or bad. Don't fight it. Just show up, stand there, and see what happens. I can't say anything more because that's every man's journey. That's every. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's really up to you who are listening right now to. I can't give you the answers, and I'm not going to. Stand in the storm and see what happens, and don't stand in it half hoping to retreat. Don't stand in it with the intention to butt your head against it. Just stand in it and see what happens. Be the observer. And so that's really the prerequisite, is to start by facing that storm. And then once that's done, once you're fully able to deal with whatever's going on inside you, right, to escape here and to really place yourself here and be comfortable being both here and here, then I find that really, to me, the most amazing connections have just been to shut the hell up, for lack of a better word. Like, men, shut the hell up. Sit there and be with her. Don't listen with the intention of one-upping her story. Don't sit there trying to paint this pic. Let her paint whatever picture she wants to paint. Let her paint it. Don't sit there telling her of all of your accomplishments. Don't sit there telling her of how much more interesting you are, and then this happened to you and that happened to you. Shut up. Just listen. Just be there with her. And it's so frustrating because the funny thing is, my entire life I had been chasing this. And I'm like, yeah, how do I make myself appear to be more interesting or more attractive or more this and that? And the moment I just shut up and sat there and just listened, I was just there. And that's really, like, it rings so true. And they say that the most interesting man in the world is the world's best listener. And it's the same as when Casanova says, love is 3/4 curiosity. You can't be living in yourself, worried about yourself, how you appear, how you seem, and so on, and learn about her, and be genuinely curious about her, and be authentically present with her. You can't do that. And the only way, right, you can never fake this. In fact, the more conscious a woman is, she will call you out. And that's one thing that I absolutely adore. And I can sit back and think of the women that I've connected with on, like, really a spiritual level, that I've met them even once or twice, and I'll always carry these women in my soul. I can think back, and it was the moment I looked into their eyes, like, before I even said hello, the moment I looked into their eyes, they looked at me, and immediately, I'll always remember this, they have like a mischievous smile that just spreads across their face, and it basically says, I know. I know. They always know. Women always know. So you can't hide this, you can't fake this. And so whenever...
So wait. I know, and then what does it imply? I know what?
Oh, everything. On a spiritual level, everything. She knows why I'm up there. She knows why I'm speaking to her. She knows the level of consciousness that I'm at. She knows whether I'm being real or if it's all bravado. I can't even describe it, but I know it and she knows it. It's this instantaneous feeling, and I remember these women, and they still, this is what's so amazing, is that even if they're in relationships, like, we have such a deep connection, they'll still call, we'll still talk, but they'll introduce me to their boyfriends. Like, we can never fall into, like, we hate each other or the past, or, I mean, these women, that's how you connect with someone for life. You need to deal with that storm first, because everything else will be fake if not. You can never be present. You can never be open, and you can never be genuinely curious. In other words, you can never be conscious instead of self-conscious if you haven't first and foremost stood in your own storm and really, really seen the pits, the bottom of what's actually going on inside you. If you haven't dealt with that as a man, then forget it. Forget it, because everything will be coming from that frame of, I need mommy to tell me I'm a good boy. So to me, from the masculine perspective, that is the best way to make a genuine connection, is to first and foremost deal with your storm and shut the hell up, be there for her, allow her to paint the picture. You are the canvas. Stop trying to paint your own picture. Shut up and be with her.
Oh my God, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, Luba, before we get ready to call it a day, I want to give a personal tip. What's something very specific that women can work on or can do to open themselves up to a connection, to begin a new relationship?
Yeah, I have many programs actually on that, and I'm going to share something which is the most important. And we'll talk more about it in the future, but here's the key. First of all, before you get into a new relationship, or you even try to attract a new relationship, it is absolutely necessary to be single for a little bit of time. Because only by being single and knowing that you didn't die from it, only that gives you the freedom to choose Otherwise, you're in a rush and you always choose wrong. You choose out of panic, you choose out of fear. But when you're alone for some time and you know, okay, I'm okay, you know, and that gives it to you. At the same time, when you're alone, it's also possible to come into a very strong, let's say, sadness or depression, or and start feeling really, really bad and questioning yourself as well. Am I lovable? Do I deserve to be loved? What's going on? So in that respect, I'm going to require your presence right now, Patrick. Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. So in that respect, uh, what's important is to get to the raw wound and to connect to the authentic desire, true desire of your heart, and to come and to open that portal, which is like heart shaped in yourself, and maybe even cry. And only when you get to that point, to that darkness, that is the point where the darkness starts turning into light. And that point of the deepest pain, maybe, that's the point when you can really talk to the universe and say and make a proclamation. What is it that you've learned from your previous experiences? And what is it that you're willing to offer, that put as an offering on the altar for your next love? Whether it is to become more conscious, to become more giving, to choose right, to work on yourself to be attracted to the right people, but you have to take responsibility for your past relationships and make an offer to love in terms of how it is that you're planning to serve it once it comes in. And when that happens, love comes.
Yeah,
That's it.
very well said.
So that's my advice in terms of the practice for that. As I said, like I would say, just allow yourself also to sit in the storm. That's also good. Sometimes, you know, put your nose into the crack in the sofa or couch and spend time just with yourself in quietness, in nature, just by yourself for a while. It's going to pay off. It's going to pay off handsomely. So that's my advice.
So my advice probably at the end of this episode would be I want to talk a little bit actually about authentic, for lack of a better word, let's say approaching, but I really want to talk about an authentic interaction. So something very practical for men to do. If you are finding, I've had a lot of my readers write to me talking
Mm-hmm.
about how, you know, even just in terms of romance, their options are lacking. If you find that there's something lacking in your life, it's your job as a man to go out there and do something about it. And so I want to leave you with this. Forget all the garbage advice you've been reading. Forget all of the tactics and all of the noise that you've built up here. I want you to be down here and down here. I want you to feel it. So what I want you to do is I want you to go out and I want you to celebrate 5 women. I want you to go out. I want you to get into the street or in a bar or social gathering, whatever it might be. And what I want you to do is I want you to notice something very specific about a woman who's in front of you. Now, I want you to pay attention to that feeling that begins down here, just above your crotch area, and that starts to shoot up. And before your mind has the time to jump in and tell you, she's probably busy, she has a boyfriend, she wouldn't like me, she wouldn't be interested in me, I'm running late for my job or whatever. No. Before you even have time to get there, I want you to stay on that feeling, because that feeling is love, that feeling is passion, and it's desire, and it's a very beautiful thing. Stay with that feeling, and then just put your focus on your feet. Put one foot in front of the other, and before you know it, you're standing in front of this beautiful woman who had an effect on you, a profound effect. And I want you to celebrate her. I want you to say something very, something nice. Give her a compliment that comes from your heart. If the first thing you noticed is her scarf or her outfit, then by all means, be authentic about it. You have such an incredible outfit. I had to come here and tell you, you look wonderful. And if the only thing that went through your head is that she looks stunningly beautiful, go up there and tell her, you look stunningly beautiful. But here's the thing, walk away after. I want you to leave. I don't want you to linger. The point being is that I want you to get used to going around and giving your gift. Do this to 5 women without wanting anything in return. You're not going to stand there and wait for mommy to say that you're a good boy. Okay? As a
Yeah.
man, you're going to show up and you're going to make her day better. You're going to make her feel good about herself. And I want you to try that. I want you to get into that feeling of giving. And then once that's done, then connecting with someone becomes second nature. It'll be so easy for you to find your dream woman and to find a woman that you will connect and fall in love with right then and there. It becomes second nature. It becomes just a part of who you are. So I want you to go out and I want you to experiment with that. I want to finish off by giving a quick preview for next week's episode, and we're going to be talking about the foundations of an empowered relationship. And so, Luba, would you like to introduce it a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. As we are becoming more and more conscious as society, and we're at the same time becoming really free, right? And we have so many options. Like before, monogamy and like hooking up with somebody for life, just with one person of an opposite gender, was kind of like this core idea. Right now, we're experimenting with so many different things, and as always, freedom brings in a lot of beauty, and also it brings in a lot of challenges. So how do we choose? How do we make the right choice? How do we even know what is an empowered relationship for us or not? And this is something that is very important to discuss. How do we in fact learn from our biggest teachers, which is the relationship? How do we turn the relationship into personal growth practice? So those are the questions that would be wonderful to discuss.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right, Luba, I'm going to let you go, and I look forward to our meeting again next week.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was great.
It's a pleasure.